My fiancé called off our wedding for a college ex she reconnected with online, then flaunted their soulmate new life. I replied to her blog. Cheers. Then I leaked her messages about still loving me and using him for funding her spa. Her wellness empire quickly collapsed. I knew something was wrong the second Alina sat down at the cafe. Not because of her expression, she looked calm, composed even. But it was the way she avoided eye contact, kept smoothing her napkin like she needed something to do with her hands. We'd been together for years. I knew her tics. The brunch spot was one of our favorites in Santa Monica. Rustic brick walls, overpriced omelets, and that lemon rosewater thing she always raved about. She'd picked it for the meetup. That should have tipped me off. I thought we were here to talk final wedding details. Instead, she handed me a bomb wrapped in lavender silk. Marcus, she started, tone soft, rehearsed. I need to be honest with you about something. I braced myself. Maybe she was overwhelmed with the wedding. Maybe she had doubts, who doesn't, right before a huge commitment? But it wasn't cold feet. I've been talking to someone, she said, lifting her eyes to meet mine. Dorian. From college. I blinked. Dorian? That guy she once called a self-absorbed hack with a guru complex? He found me through a professional networking app, she added, already anticipating the follow-up. It started as catching up, but it didn't stay that way. The omelet arrived. I didn't touch it. She kept going. Said she hadn't planned it, that reconnecting with Dorian made her feel whole, like something had snapped into place. Her words blurred, but one phrase hit me like a steel beam. He completes me. She said it with a straight face. No guilt. Just a weird, dreamy calm like she was telling me she'd discovered yoga, not demolished our life together. I didn't ask how long it had been going on. I didn't ask why she waited until we were weeks out from the wedding. I just looked at her and thought about the deposits. The florist. The resort in Big Sur that wouldn't refund a cent. The invitations that had already gone out. My mom's face when I told her the wedding was off. I did what I always do when things go sideways. I went quiet. Let the gears turn. I nodded. Finished my coffee. Reached for the check before the server could. Alina didn't even argue. She let me pay, like it was just another Sunday. You okay? She asked gently. No, not even close. But I said, sure. Outside, the sky was too blue. I stood there while she gave me a weird half-hug, then walked away like we'd just wrapped a business meeting. My hands stayed in my pockets the whole time. I didn't chase her. Didn't beg. Just stood on that corner, calculating what came next, canceling the vendors, calling the guests, dealing with my parents. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry. Not yet. But underneath all that silence, something had cracked open. Not grief. Not rage. Something deeper. Something cold and focused. Alina thought she could walk away clean. She had no idea what she'd just set in motion. A week later, I woke up to the kind of social media blast that made me want to throw my phone into the ocean. There she was, Alina, wrapped in a flowy white sundress, barefoot in a vineyard, sipping what looked like biodynamic rose. Dorian stood beside her in a cream sweater, one hand in his pocket, the other around her waist. His smile was smug, practiced, polished. The kind of smile you train in front of a mirror. The caption read, when soulmates realign. Hashtag divine timing, hashtag true north, hashtag wellness couple goals. She even tagged him. Not just his name, his brand. Dorian Marlowe Mind plus money retreats. It was nauseating. She'd turned our breakup into content. Branded it. Positioned it like a rebrand instead of betrayal. Her journey was just beginning. According to her blog, which I made the mistake of clicking through, leaving a relationship that no longer aligned with her spirit had been one of the hardest but most necessary acts of personal growth. There were photos of her on yoga mats, hiking trails, and next to infinity pools that screamed money. And the comments? All hearts and fire emojis. Her followers called her brave, radiant, a goddess. No one knew what really happened. No one knew how many times she cried in our bed saying she didn't know what she wanted. No one knew about the prenup draft she begged me to waive last month. I stared at her post for 5 full minutes before typing a single comment. Cheers. That's all I wrote. One word. Clean. Ambiguous. Just enough to light the match. I didn't stick around to read the replies. I didn't need to. I already knew the damage that one word would cause. After that, I opened my messages. Not hers, mine. Our thread. Hundreds of texts. I scrolled past the ones about dinner plans, venue choices, registry links. Past the I miss you, S, and do you think we'll be okay, S. Down to the one she sent a day or two after reconnecting with Dorian. There was one where she wrote, he's intense. But the kind of intense that makes things happen, you know? He has this whole vision. I guess I'm just curious. Then another, just 2 days before she dumped me. I hate myself for saying this, but his money makes things feel easier. Is that awful? I don't even know anymore. And the one that really stuck. He said he'd invest in my wellness space. Not a loan. A real stake. I know I shouldn't factor that in. But still, She sent those messages thinking I'd never use them, that I'd swallow them like I swallowed everything else, that I'd stay the quiet ex with too much pride to speak. But pride was never my problem. For the first time in days, I smiled. Just a little. Not because I wanted revenge. Because now I had choices. And Alina had no idea how many receipts I was still holding. I figured it wouldn't take long. Less than 24 hours after I posted that single word, cheers, the ripple started. It was Dorian who cracked first. I got a notification that he'd liked the comment, then unliked it, then liked it again. Amateur move. A guy like him probably ran 6 brands and still didn't know how to hide when something rattled him. The next morning, Alina called. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. She didn't bother with pleasantries. What the hell was that, Marcus? Morning to you too. You know what I'm talking about. I did. And I didn't care. That comment. I asked. Just a toast. Soulmates, vineyards, seemed like something worth celebrating. There was silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing through her nose, trying to keep her cool. But I knew her too well. She was spiraling. Dorian saw it, she said finally. He started asking questions. He thinks there's more to the story. Isn't there? She ignored that. He wants to know if I left you for him. If we cheated. If I used him. You need to tell him it wasn't like that. I laughed. A dry, low sound. You want me to protect your fantasy? I said. To help you lie to the guy you ditched me for? It wasn't a lie, she snapped. I didn't cheat. I didn't. It wasn't planned. Okay? But if he thinks I'm some gold-digging flake, he might. She stopped herself. He might what? Pull funding. Silence again. I leaned back in my chair. Let me ask you something, Alina. If Dorian didn't offer to bankroll your spa dreams, would we still be engaged right now? That's not fair. Isn't it? I cared about you. You cared about being comfortable, I said. I was building something slow. Steady. He offered a shortcut. She didn't deny it. Then her voice changed sharp now. Defensive. You don't understand what it's like trying to get traction and wellness. It's all connections and visibility. You think love is enough? Love doesn't pay for beachfront real estate in Santorini. And neither does pretending to be a spiritual influencer with someone else's checkbook. That hit a nerve. I heard her inhale like she was about to unleash something vicious. But before she could, I said, we're done, Alina. You made your choice. Now own it. I hung up before she could respond. Not 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again, this time with a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Layla. Alina's sister. I debated letting it ring. But if there was one thing Layla loved more than her morning smoothie bowl, it was getting in the middle of other people's business. Hi, Marcus, she said, all breathy concern. I just talked to Alina. She's really upset. She'll live. I know you're hurt, she went on, but do you really want to drag this out in public? For what? Pride. For the truth, I said. Layla sighed. Look, I'm not saying she was perfect, okay? But people make mistakes. You've always been the calm one. The reasonable one. Can't you just let it go? Sure, I said. As soon as she stops pretending she's the victim. There was a pause. You're going to ruin her, she whispered. No, I said, calm and even. She's doing that all on her own. And then I hung up. Again. Let them scramble. The ripple had just started. The email landed in my inbox 2 days later. Subject line, clarification request from Dorian Marlowe. No assistant. No PR rep. Just him. Clean signature. The message itself was short, polite, and far more professional than I expected from a guy who ran retreats called things like vibrational wealth and alpha alignment for entrepreneurs. Marcus, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I'm not looking for drama. Just clarity. Alina's been inconsistent. Before I move forward with anything personally or professionally, I'd appreciate hearing your side. Best. Dorian. He wasn't demanding. He wasn't angry. He sounded like a man who sensed something wasn't adding up but needed to be absolutely sure before making a move. Smart. Cautious. I took a long moment before replying. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I did. I didn't unload. I didn't write a manifesto. I sent him one screenshot. Just one. It was a message from Alina, sent 2 weeks before the breakup. Short. Honest. Desperate. I still love Marcus. But Dorian's money, it opens doors. I know that sounds awful. I hate myself for thinking it, but it's the truth. That was it. I followed it with a single sentence of my own. Just so you know what you're investing in. No insults. No threats. No dramatics. Just facts. I hit send and closed the laptop. No immediate reply. No thank you. Nothing. But I wasn't waiting for gratitude. I knew how these things worked. You don't pull the plug in front of everyone. You let it all sink in. Quietly. Privately. Strategically. Especially if you're Dorian Marlowe, a man who made his living off appearing enlightened and unbothered. But later that night, I checked Alina's Instagram. Something had changed. The vineyard post was still there, but the caption was edited. The hashtag's gone. The tone dialed down. And in her stories? Nothing but a photo of the ocean and a quote from some self-help guru about releasing attachment. I smirked. The machine was stalling. Her image was shifting. She was scrambling to regain control of the narrative, make it look like she was choosing herself, instead of watching her foundation crack in slow motion. I didn't celebrate. I just sat back in the quiet and waited. Because once a leak starts, it never stops with just one. It started small. First, one photo disappeared from Alina's profile. Then another. By the end of the day, the entire Soulmates Reunited album was gone, wiped clean like it had never happened. The edited Vineyard post? Vanished. Her bio no longer said co-founder of Elevation Spa Santorini, it just said, in transition. Healing loudly. Right. I didn't reach out. Didn't post anything. Just watched the unraveling in real time. 3 days later, she called again. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Part of me hoped she'd hang up before I picked up. She didn't. Marcus. Her voice was sharp. Tight. No trace of the glowing, ethereal goddess from the photos. This was the real Alina, cornered, anxious, and finally losing her grip. Dorian pulled out, she said flatly. The investment, the joint launch, all of it. He said I wasn't honest. Said he's rethinking the whole brand alignment. I didn't say anything. You had no right, she snapped. No right to drag this into my professional life. I almost laughed. You dragged your personal life into your professional life the moment you turned our breakup into a lifestyle post. I was just trying to move on. Gracefully. No, you were trying to market it. Dress it up with hashtags and vineyard lighting and pretend none of it was messy. She scoffed. So what? This is revenge? No, I said. This is truth. You chose to walk away. You just didn't expect anyone to remember how it actually happened. I heard a shaky breath. She wasn't used to this. People usually gave her the benefit of the doubt. She'd built a whole career on looking composed while other people cleaned up behind her. This was going to be my future, she said quietly. The spa, the partnerships, the work I've put in it. The work Dorian was paying for, I cut in. Silence. Then came the voice I hadn't heard in a long time, the one she used when she was scared. When her hands trembled and she needed someone to hold the pieces together. I need this, she whispered. Marcus, please. I didn't budge. You needed to be honest. You weren't. She didn't respond. Later that night, I got another call. Alina's mother. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since she cried at our engagement party and told me I was the best thing to ever happen to her daughter. Now her voice was colder. I heard what's going on, she said. Alina is devastated. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish, but this cruelty, it's beneath you. She lied, I said. She was confused. She was calculating. She exhaled, sharp and heavy. You always acted like you were above drama. And now? You're throwing dirt because you didn't get picked. I shook my head. No, I said. I'm just done pretending. Then I hung up. Let them talk. Let them spin it however they want it. Because behind all the yoga quotes and detox tea, the truth was rotting underneath. And I just peeled back the label. 3 days passed before Dorian reached out again. Another email. Same clean formatting. But the tone had shifted. Marcus. I appreciate your candor the other day. I spoke to Alina directly. She confirmed the message was real, though not without some revisionist storytelling. She said she was conflicted, that she wasn't trying to hurt anyone. But there's a pattern here I can't ignore. I need to ask, are there more messages like the one you sent? Respectfully. Dorian. It was the kind of note that didn't ask for gossip. It asked for evidence. And I had it. I sat with it for a while. Opened the folder on my laptop, Alina, unfiltered. I created it the day after the brunch breakup, not out of pettiness, but self-preservation. Screenshots, voice memos, forwarded emails. A trail of digital fingerprints she must have assumed I'd deleted. I hadn't. I wrote back. There are more. 5 messages total. You'll find them attached. Do with them what you need to. Marcus. I didn't editorialize. Didn't add context. Just sent the raw files. The first one was from when she just reconnected with him. He's charming in that intense, overconfident way. Like he walks into a room and already thinks he owns it. I can't tell if I like it or hate it. The second was the one where she told me Dorian thinks we're aligned, spiritually. I think he's aligned with funding my Santorini vision. Then there was the one she sent late one night after our second fight about the prenup. He offered me equity in the spa. He said I'd have a platform, that I'd be the face. Honestly, Marcus, it's tacky, but useful. The last 2 were the nail in the coffin. One said, I know how this looks, but love doesn't scale. Strategy does. And the final one, the one she probably didn't remember sending, simply read. If I play this right, I could build an empire. No mention of him by name. But the timing was obvious. The intent, undeniable. I didn't hear back that day, or the next, but I didn't need to. By Friday, the wellness blog Alina had co-run with another influencer suddenly went dark, under maintenance. Her Instagram comments, once full of heart emojis and affirmations, were now dotted with vague questions and snarky subtweets. Dorian finally replied the following Monday. Thank you. This confirms everything I suspected. I've paused all projects. Investments, partnerships, everything. You didn't know me the truth, but you gave it anyway. I respect that. D. No drama. No outbursts. Just a clean, surgical withdrawal. Exactly how people like Dorian operated. The wellness empire she thought she was building? It just cracked at the foundation. And I didn't even have to lift a hammer. 2 weeks later, the updates came not from Alina or Dorian, but through the people who couldn't help but talk. Mutual friends. Industry acquaintances. The kind of people who start every sentence with, "So don't repeat this." But Dorian was gone. Not just out of the relationship. He pulled every penny from their joint accounts, revoked access to shared branding tools, and even clawed back startup investments through what someone described as aggressively thorough legal methods. He hadn't just walked away, he'd sanitized the wreckage like it had never existed. And Alina? She'd moved back in with her mother in Pasadena. She deleted her professional blog. Her wellness Instagram, once a curated blend of muted pink quotes and linen jumpsuits, was now a private account with a blank bio. Her digital empire had been reduced to a whisper, the kind of silence that only comes after something implodes. The message from Layla came next. This time, it wasn't a guilt trip. It was quiet. Humbled. She texted first, then called. I let it go to voicemail, but I listened. Marcus, she said softly. I wanted to say you were right. About everything. Alina played us. She played Dorian. She played herself, honestly. I didn't see it before, but now it's like I can and see it. Her voice cracked. She's not okay. And I'm not calling to ask for help. I know better now. I just thought you should hear it from someone who isn't trying to protect her. I didn't reply. I appreciated the tone, the honesty. But I wasn't jumping back into the flames just because someone had finally noticed the smoke. I also found out, through one of our former wedding vendors, ironically, that Alina had tried reaching out. Burner emails. Blocked numbers. A friend of a friend said she even showed up at the yoga studio where I used to take classes and left a note at the front desk. I never saw it. Didn't want to. I'd already blocked her on everything. It wasn't about revenge anymore. Or anger. That part had burned off weeks ago. What was left was something colder. Cleaner. Clarity. For years, I thought protecting someone meant forgiving them. Making peace, smoothing things over. But sometimes the most honest thing you can do is let someone sit in what they created. No shields. No save. One night, I drove past the place where our wedding was supposed to happen. A hilltop resort in Big Sur, one of those overpriced spots with floor-to-ceiling glass and panoramic ocean views. We toured it together last fall. She cried when we saw the sunset. I sat in the parking lot for a while, engine running, the sound of waves somewhere below. And for the first time, I didn't think about what could have been. I thought about what didn't happen and how lucky I was for it. We didn't get married. I didn't sign over half my future to someone who saw love as leverage. I didn't lose myself in a curated illusion. She did. And she can keep it. Whatever brand she tries to build next, whatever caption she posts about starting over or rising stronger, that's hers to carry. I'm not in the frame anymore. I'm not even in the room. And God, it feels good. Life got quiet after that. Not in the depressing way, not the kind of silence that makes you feel hollow. This was different. This was the kind of quiet that lets you breathe again. I didn't post anything. I didn't explain myself. While Alina's digital life melted down and her followers drifted away, I pulled back from the noise. I logged off, turned off notifications, and opened up my old sketchbook for the first time in over a year. There was an architectural competition I had shelved during the wedding planning madness, a solo project that required time I didn't have back then. A community space, modern but warm, something sustainable with glass walls and green roofs. I called it Haven in the initial draft. I picked it back up. Started spending more nights at my desk, headphones in, pencil gliding over tracing paper. No distractions. No drama. Just me, creating something I could be proud of again. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected. Grabbed beers with coworkers after a long week. Sat through a whole Lakers game without checking my phone. I even joined a local design mentorship program, helping teens from underserved schools learn how to turn an idea into blueprints. There was this one kid, Jamal, who built a working bridge out of popsicle sticks and fishing line. Smart as hell. He reminded me of myself at 16, only with more spark and way less self-doubt. Helping him felt like rewinding my own story to a cleaner chapter. The city felt different now. Lighter. Not because it changed, because I had. I wasn't dragging around the weight of pretending anymore. I wasn't covering for someone else's ambition or editing my reactions to keep the peace. I was just living. I heard whispers about Alina through the grapevine. She tried launching another project, something about digital detox retreats, but it fizzled before it got off the ground. Too much baggage. Too little trust. Her following was down by more than half. Word had gotten around, not loudly, just enough. Funny how fast people distance themselves when the illusion cracks. One night, I sat on my balcony with a beer and my journal, the same one I'd used to sketch out wedding budgets and color palettes not long ago. Now it was filled with sketches of buildings, handwritten goals, and notes from the teens I was mentoring. I flipped to a clean page and wrote. She marketed herself as someone enlightened. In the end, she was just selling dreams, and I stopped buying. I underlined that last part. Twice. Then I closed the journal and leaned back in my chair, watching the skyline flicker across the horizon. It was late. The air was cool. And for the first time in what felt like forever, there was nothing I needed to fix. No fire to put out. No lie to swallow. Just the quiet, steady feeling of moving forward on my own terms.